Howdy mates, good late morning. How are we all doing? It is Wednesday, December 1st, 2021. It is a new month and the last month of the year. So on this gorgeous morning, I'm actually visiting a place called the Lemon Creek Wildflower Preserve. Now, this is actually based in between Inglewood and Placida. This is actually close to the Amberjack Environmental Park, where I was on Saturday. So, I want to give a background first on this place. So essentially, the Lemon Creek Wildflower Preserve, it was purchased back in 2010 by the Bay Conservancy, which is a non-profit organization based in Inglewood. And so what they usually do is they provide habitat restoration, invasive plant removal, and even environmental education to the public. So essentially where I'm standing is a parcel that is about 80 acres or so. And this particular site where I'm standing, this used to be a golf course. And for the longest time it was abandoned. And it was overrun by Brazilian pepper. However though, 10 or so years ago, a team of volunteers and other leading naturalists wanted to do something about it. They wanted to provide an opportunity to restore natural Florida's ecosystem in the form of trees, such as our slash pines, even live oaks, and even our palms too, such as that of the cabbage palm. And not only that, but also incorporating the wildflowers that are native to Florida, like for instance, the Biden's alba, which is also known as Ramarillo, which I did a video on that about a couple months ago. Now, the reason why I came today was we were doing some birding this morning, because usually that's the most ideal time to look for birds. And I was joined with a well-known naturalist, and I can see him being a really good mentor too, Bill Dunson. He actually has lived in Florida for at least 20 years. Now, with that being said, he also lives up north too, in Pennsylvania for part of the year. But he's very familiar with the area. Sorry, driver had to go by. But he helped lead a birding tour this morning. So we saw like osprey, red-bellied woodpeckers, merlins, anhingas, mourning doves. Those are just to name a few. Now, in a sense, it was my first time meeting him in person, and I've heard so much about him. I wanted the opportunity to actually meet him and talk about my work in terms of what I do. So, piece of advice, mates, in a situation like this is meet people who are within the same field and interests that you have. Because I will say, mates, networking is by far one of the most important things to do. Especially when you're relatively new to the field itself. In my case, most of my field deals in environmental education. So, as part of this video, I wanted to point out a couple of plants that I noticed. So right here, we've actually got ourselves the saltbush, also known as sea myrtle. Now, what's neat about this particular plant is it's actually a type of aster. And most asters, we associate that with star-shaped flowers. For example, sunflowers. That's a well-known aster. You could say, like right now, it's at a point where it's wanting to reproduce. And most saltbush are dioecious. So there's a male and a female. In this case, we're looking at a female because we're seeing all of these seeds. So you could say wind is a common means of pollination. But yeah, that's a saltbush right here. So they're like one of the only types of asters that is actually considered to be a shrub. Whereas most other asters are only flowers. So it's basically, there's no other aster like it. It's its own special type. Okay, so this was another thing that I wanted to point out too while I was walking through here. Hopefully. Looks like they're already in the process of being removed. So noticeably, as we were walking through here a little while ago, we actually found some Florida Castor Bean. Now, some of you may not know what that is, but here is what it basically looks like. So this has already been cut down already. I kind of wish it were still standing at the moment, but it isn't. You could tell these were physically removed based on their roots. But here's the thing to know. These are very fast growing, and this is what their leaves look like. They can be absolutely huge. I mean, you figure that is at least, in terms of width, maybe 3 to 4 feet. I mean, just look at that. That is absolutely humongous, gargantuan. I've always associated it with looking like an Ohio Buckeye, but on a much larger scale, just based on the shape of the leaf. Now, despite their neat features, Castor Bean is actually an invasive plant in Florida, because what it does is, since it's so rapidly growing, it can produce a large canopy and prevent any other native vegetation from growing. That's what most invasive plants do. Now, despite that, it's been found that they've been native to parts of Africa, but they have managed to spread to even other parts of the world, whether it be Asia, the Caribbean, or even South America. So they're practically everywhere. And they're very, what you may call, resilient, or versatile. There we go, that's a better word. Versatile, in terms of where they can grow. Now, with that being said, it's actually been used for many commercial reasons. For one, some of you may have heard of castor oil. Okay? So, castor oil has been something that's been used in many products, especially for our skin. It's essentially acted as a skin moisturizer. You know, whether it be in shampoos, soaps, or even lotions. That's a huge ingredient that is found in it. So that's part of why it's become so invasive and prevalent, because it's been used for commercial reasons. Now, the one thing to keep in mind though is that this plant is not safe for consumption. It's actually extremely toxic. Let me pull out. So this is like the beans that they reproduce right here. This is what they look like. Kind of reminds me of looking at a fruit called rambutan, for those of you who have not heard of it. So rambutan is not the same thing as a castor bean. They're two totally different things. But the castor bean contains a toxic substance called ricin, R-I-C-I-N. And here's something to know. If you had like maybe 1 or 2 of these, you could possibly risk death. It's that serious. Like, you'd have to have immediate medical attention, as you would be feeling extreme stomach pain. And actually, with that being said, the Seminoles back in the day have used this same plant to help with stomach pain. You know, of course, like as a diuretic. They don't ingest it directly because you can't. Because it would essentially kill you. It's that serious. But the beans have always also been associated with looking like the coronavirus, like the actual element itself. But yeah, this is the piece on the castor bean, and it's just crazy to think, like, with it being invasive, it has indeed had many uses for it. The main thing being castor oil. But yeah. So yeah, that's a piece on the Wildflower Preserve, you guys. And that was 2 of the main plants that I really wanted to point out. But please keep in mind though, if you ever decide to visit the Lemon Creek Wildflower Preserve, you have to either be a member or a volunteer of the Bay Conservancy, which I'm actually in the process of working on. Not only that, but you also, like, an exception can be if you're just a public guest, if there was like a walking tour going on. Other than that, you're not allowed to come here at all. So, since some of the members of the Bay Conservancy saw me today on our group tour, or on our birding walk, they might be a little more lax about it. So, I thank you guys for watching, for this educational purpose. Have a great Wednesday, and once again, Journey on a Journey is outwards. Take care, folks. See ya.